earlier today, including taxes, healthcare, and how it could help ease the people's burdens. That's coming up on Awani Tonight. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz has tabled Budget 2023, announcing an allocation of 372.3 billion ringgit. This represents a 40.2 billion ringgit increase compared to the 332.1 billion ringgit allocated for 2022. Around 272.3 billion ringgit has been allocated for operational expenditure and 95 billion ringgit for development. The top three recipients of Budget 2023 are the Finance Ministry, 67.2 billion ringgit, Education Ministry, 55.6 billion ringgit, and Health Ministry, 36.1 billion ringgit. According to Finance Minister, this constituted 43.3% of the total expenditure. Those earning between 50,000 and 100,000 ringgit a year will have their income tax payments slashed by 2 percentage points. This will benefit over 1 million people in the M40 income group.
For the taxable income range of 50,000 ringgit to 70,000 ringgit, the rate will be reduced from 13% to 11%. Those in the taxable income bracket of 70,000 ringgit to 100,000 ringgit, meanwhile, will see a tax cut from 21% to 19%. While those in the taxable income range between 250,000 ringgit to 600,000 ringgit will be subject to a rate of 25%. The measures would allow tax savings of up to 1,000 ringgit for the middle income group and 250 ringgit for the high income group. Additionally, those earning below 100,000 ringgit per year will also be getting an e-wallet top-up of 100 ringgit next year.
Meanwhile, those earning between 50,000 and 100,000 ringgit a year will have the Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia BKM cash and scheme will be expanded, where households of less than 2,500 ringgit income with 5 children or more will receive 2,500 ringgit each. Tengku Zafrul said the scheme would benefit 8.7 million of recipients in 2023, with a total allocation of 7.8 billion ringgit.
This is an upgrade from 2020's Bantuan Sara Hidup, where 5 million recipients benefited with a 5 billion ringgit allocation. Zafrul said the government wanted to reduce the burden of families with multiple kids. As such, households with 4 kids are eligible to receive BKM of between 1,000 and 2,000 ringgit. Senior citizens without spouses and singles, meanwhile, will continue to receive 600 ringgit and 350 ringgit in aid respectively, depending on their incomes. The aid for single mothers and single fathers continues in 2023. They are eligible to receive a maximum of 3,000 ringgit, 500 ringgit more than the 2,500 ringgit they received in 2022.
The government has also announced a slew of initiatives to benefit women in the country. This includes income tax exemptions for women who return to the workforce from 2023 to 2028 after taking a career break.
In terms of women's healthcare, the government will allocate 11 million ringgit in subsidies for breast and cervical cancer screenings through mammograms and pap smears. Meanwhile, gender focal teams will be set up in all ministries and government agencies to address gender gaps and increase women participation in planning and implementation of policies. Another 8 million ringgit was allocated for social support centres to help domestic violence survivors and those experiencing mental health issues. For women entrepreneurs, 235 million ringgit will be set aside to help them build and upgrade their businesses, while the Securities Commission will offer training programs to increase the number of women appointed to become members of Board of Directors.
Now we take a closer look on the expanded tax relief announced under Budget 2023. Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia's Harvinder Singh discusses what stood out to him.
There's a reduction of the tax rate for the two bands of the M40 taxpayers, a 2% reduction, which would be quite useful to essentially put more disposable income in the hands of the taxpayers. For women that are looking at coming back to work, women play a very important role in the workforce. A lot of experience, a lot of contribution from them. There is an exemption that's announced for the years 2023 till 2028 for 5 years. As to how exactly the exemption is going to work is probably left to be, in the details. From the corporate tax perspective, well, it's good to note that there is a reduction of for SMEs tax rate from 17 to 15%, but it's only on the first 100,000 of chargeable income of tax payable of chargeable income, which translates to only a benefit of about 2,000 ringgit. Whereas this this category of taxpayers have had to had a increase in cost of doing business with the need to comply with all the ESG requirements. So this is not exactly a hit, but it's probably a step in the right direction. We could see an improvement of this, moving forward in the next few years. And my big takeaway from this budget, I would say, is that there are a lot of pump priming efforts that have been put in by the government to spur the economy, which is necessary. There are handouts that have been included to the needy group. We have a big deficit, I would imagine, with a huge budget like this. It's about 12% more than last year, right? So but there doesn't seem to be a clear pathway towards having an increased collection of taxes. Right? Malaysia's tax collection is about 12.5% of the GDP, whereas most of the OECD countries, they average about 15%. So we have quite a bit of a gap to basically sort of manage.
Meanwhile, 1 billion ringgit will be allocated to the Keluarga Malaysia Hardcore Poverty Eradication Program from 2023. Tengku Zafrul said this will see economic opportunities given to some 50,000 hardcore poor households in the country.
Program ini akan menyediakan peluang ekonomi kepada lebih 50,000 isi rumah miskin tegar bagi meningkatkan pendapatannya, antaranya menerusi projek pertanian serta usahawanan produk dan perkhidmatan. Bantuan yang diberikan termasuklah latihan, modal permulaan, insentif pertanian, pemasaran dan pendigitalan. Diharapkan usaha ini dapat meningkatkan pendapatan isi rumah miskin tegar supaya melepasi pendapatan garis kemiskinan makanan.
To what extent can Budget 2023 help ease the people's burdens in light of global challenges and economic uncertainties for the year ahead? Yi Minghua, Deals Director, Economics and Policy at PwC Malaysia, provides an economic viewpoint on the budget.
I think the first hour of the budget speech really focuses on the people, and then it goes into the women and entrepreneur sectors. So the hits will be firstly the digital economy. So there is some initiatives to help digital adoption. For example, e-dagang, as well as getting internet into the rural area. So for digital economy, we can see the government is trying to be inclusive, not only helping the business side of things, but also getting into the rural areas. Then secondly, we see incentives for economic sector, where government is saying they will review the incentives for economic sectors in the form of national investment aspiration. So with this, we can see government's effort to intensify more investments into sector with which we have comparative advantage, such as E&E, petrochemical. And also lastly, this thing about agri-commodity, we also see government efforts into agri-commodity, which is also arising from the past 2 years of the pandemic, where there's a focus on food security.
When asked about the fate of Budget 2023, in the event that Parliament dissolves before the bill is passed, Zafrul referred to the precedent set before. In 1999, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who was the then Prime Minister, sought the dissolution of Parliament shortly after the tabling of Budget 2000 in November, and his finance minister was forced to table another one at the end of February 2000, or around 3 months later, after Barisan Nasional prevailed.
This has happened before in the year 1999. So if you refer back to what happened in 1999, there was a budget was presented. There was a dissolution in 1999. Then the budget was then presented again. So that was what will happen if there is a dissolution. But again, that question should be posed to the Prime Minister.
The Ministry of Health's budget will be increased by 11.4% to 36.1 billion ringgit. We speak to Professor Sharifah Izzat from UKM for her suggestions on where these funds should be allocated to ensure it reaches all levels of society.
The increment is quite huge, which is 11%, but we need to make sure that the budget actually goes down to the community, or basically the areas that needs the budget allocated to. And these would include things like not only infrastructure, but there's a lot of new challenges that we need to face. One of them would be the issues of mental health problems, which is part of our NCDs, but also the issues of an aging population. These are some of the priorities that we need to prioritize. We also see that we need to be prepared for the next pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen, and we have seen it with COVID, how bad that it went from bad to worse, and we have to be prepared for the next pandemic. If there is going to come, we have to be prepared, because it's going to take a lot of toll from the countries as well.
Amid the urgent challenges of the global economy and the climate crisis, have the political imperatives of the day determined the thrust of Budget 2023. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guests about Budget 2023. On the international front, the UN Human Rights Council has rejected a motion to hold a debate on alleged human rights abuses by China against Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang, a diplomatic victory for China. The motion was defeated by 19 votes to 17 in favor. 11 countries abstained from voting, including Malaysia.
Among countries that voted down the debate were Indonesia, Qatar, the UAE and Pakistan. It is only the second time in the Council's 16-year history that a motion has been rejected in what is seen as a setback to both accountability efforts and the credibility of the United Nations itself. The United States and allies brought the motion to debate the Xinjiang issue following UN Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet's report citing possible crimes against humanity against Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities in the far western region. Putrajaya, meanwhile, had been asked to explain its decision in abstaining from voting. Terengganu Amanah Chief Raja Kamarul Shah questioned the government's decision and cautioned that Malaysia may become irrelevant, especially among Islamic countries, by choosing not to take a stand on the issue.
That's all we have for you on the show tonight. I'm Soraya Mia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.